welcome anybody who might be joining us. I'll open up the chat thing in case somebody wants to say. And welcome my cohorts here. We got Eric Keys and Karen Gatrinig and Walter Perdigo. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Fantastic.
So, who wants to say this is a great chapter and you love it?
Absolutely.
Yes, I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great chapter.
It is.
I mean, this chapter's all right, you know.
Persistence. It's a biggie. Right? I thought I maybe just start reading a little bit of it here. It's persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. Where are you going?
She got tired. She was like,
as soon as I started talking, she leaves.
She's already had enough. I don't blame her.
Insulted her already. Jeez.
Started to do the same thing myself.
Hey.
No, I just needed just a little bit more light.
Yeah. Let there be light. So anyway, persistence is an essential factor in the procedure of transmuting desire into its monetary equivalent. The basis of persistence is the power of the will. Now, he already talked about one of your higher faculties, or something. I'm afraid of how he called it. But it's interesting, actually. Karen and I on Tuesday when we did the abundance tuning, it was all on your higher self and your 6 higher faculties. So that's what that is. And so the key here is. I'm looking at all my notes. Anyways, it's designed to help you sustain focus on the things that you want. Now, in my notes here, I did point out that one of the really good exercises to reread this particular chapter on a regular basis. Like do it every day for a couple of weeks, and really try to get a good understanding of persistence, because most people I don't think they really understand it, to be honest with you. You can be persistently chasing a bunch of crap, but
it's true.
You're not going to win by doing that. The only way you're going to win is if you have a desire, you fall in love with something, and you're persistent in chasing it to no end, and then you're going to win. And that's what when you're talking about all these people that in this book that have been incredibly successful. They were persistent. They didn't let go at all. So it says willpower and desire, when properly combined, make an irresistible pair. Men who accumulate great fortunes are and sometimes ruthless. Often they are misunderstood. What they have is willpower, which they mix with persistence and place back on their desires, to ensure the attainment of their objectives. Any words, thoughts on that particular part of it? You guys are all persistent. You're all chasing, your desires.
It's a key. Yeah, it's a key to everything. I mean, like I based my the CBAR book basically: conceive, believe, achieve, receive. Receive is persistence. It just means. I think a lot of people that's the missing factor. Is the missing key. Is they'll give up. They'll come up against challenges. And they see challenges as a failure or something, and they give up. I mean, they don't believe. Like believe and persistence have to go hand in hand. Desire, same thing. If you believe, you have the desire to achieve it. Actually, not necessarily so. I guess you have to believe it, have the desire, and the persistence to carry it through. It's the key to everything. Like the one story that I always go back to is just the Chinese bamboo tree. It takes 5 years for it to, after you plant it, it takes 5 years for it to take root and everything. So you have to be persistent. You have to keep watering it. You have to make sure there's enough nothing's blocking the sun. And for 5 straight years, if you didn't know any better, everyone would think you were crazy, saying, yeah, there's a giant plant coming out of here. And they're, oh yeah, whatever, buddy, sure. So it's coming. You don't see the fruits of your labor until the 5th year. And then it sprouts. And within the time it sprouts it grows 60 feet tall in about 8 weeks or so. So, it's persistent. And people give up it's just right there. It's just ready to come to fruition. And people just kind of give up because
it really all kind of boils down to you got to have a very strong desire and be willing to never let it go, right? Like it's,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of brilliant people out there with a lot of great ideas, and you can check with them 6 years, 10 years later, and they've never done anything. And that's because, you know, they have the beautiful goal of something they want to create, but, you know, 6 months down the road, something goes wrong and they give up on it.
Yeah.
That's the key. You got to have that strong will. You got to have persistence, right? So it says here, there may be no heroic connotation to the word persistence, but the quality is to the character of man that carbon is the steel, right? Like it's the, you know, when it comes to steel, it's the carbon that makes it strong.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. It's you need that persistence. Right? He goes on to say the building of a fortune generally entire 13 factors of this philosophy. He's talking about the entire book here, basically. These principles must be understood. They must be applied with persistence by all who accumulate money. And he goes on to say, if you are following this book with the intention of applying that phase, your first test as to your persistence will come when you begin to follow the 6 steps described in the 2nd chapter, which is desire. And we were just talking about that. Actually, while I'm here, why don't I think it's pretty short. I'm going to read them. Here it is here. Okay, so the first step is be definite as to the amounts. He's talking about money here. There's a psychological reason for the definiteness, which will be described in subsequent chapters. We're doing that. Second one is determine exactly in return for the money you desire, or whatever it is you want. It doesn't necessarily mean money, right?
Mhm.
And third, establish a definite date when you intend to possess the money or your goal. Fourth, create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you are ready or not, to put this plan into action. That's another thing too, is people keep planning to be ready. You just got to go.
Yeah.
Like you know, because like I don't know how many times you hear somebody say, "Well, there's a lot of planning involved," and actually, there's not. You just have to go. You just have to do it, right? Then the fifth one is write out a clear, concise statement of the amount of money you intend to acquire. Name the time limits for its acquisition. State what you intend to give in return for that money, and describe clearly the plan through which you intend to accumulate it. Again, I'm not sure about the plan part, but I think you need a plan to start. You know,
Yeah.
the rest of it's going to come to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then
Absolutely.
the last one here just says read your written statement aloud twice daily, once you just before retiring at night and once after arising in the morning. As you read, see, and feel and receive yourself already in possession of the money or whatever goal it is that you have.
Yeah.
So that's a key, you know, showing it. You know,
Yep.
and that's where most people go wrong. Thoughts? Shoot.
Yeah, when you were reading that, I was just thinking about people I know. There was a person that I was in contact with on a very, very, very regular basis who told me about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, both of us were thinking about, launching and doing our own things. And excuse me, he said, Eric, you're like, these are his words. He was like, you're like the cowardly lion. Like you're full of you're the king of the jungle, but you don't even realize it. And that statement he made just kind of jolted me in my desire and things of that nature. And now I have a couple businesses, and he's still talking about launching his. But it's all about that persistence, and again, the desire and willpower mixed together. Just and some of it is pain points. Like some people, for me, I was in a different position than he was, in that I really didn't have any other choice. I kind of burned all my bridges. I burned the boats on the shores. But he still has a steady income that's coming in. And so it's that burning desire is not necessarily there for him like it was for me, because again, I didn't have anything to look back at. It was like, hey man, it's either poop or get off the pot.
Yeah.
Or let me do it like what'd you do on I have to SHIT or get off the pot.
Right.
Right? I mean, but but again, some people, I hate to say this, but some people get to a point where they're forced into it. I tell people all the time, listen, man, jump off the cliff, jump, and grow wings on the way down. You don't want God to kick you off the cliff, because boy, he kick you off of it, man. Your back is gonna get broken, everything else. It's gonna be very, very painful. So you want to jump, trust and believe. But again, you have to have that willpower. Even if you jump, though, you still have to be persistent in the jump, because if not, you will fail. I mean, that's just what it is. So
You gotta be persistent, or you're
Yeah.
not gonna work.
There was a saying: if you want a new wardrobe, throw out all your clothes. You'll quickly
There it
find
is.
a way to.
You're going to get it.
Yeah, exactly. All the excuses just fall away. You'll
Yeah.
find a way to get clothes. for
You're either
sure.
going to get new clothes, or you're going to be butt naked.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
you don't want to walk around like
Right.
that.
Right. Set a new
You don't wanna
trend.
be persistently naked, right?
Exactly.
So
So I think many people, they don't have the persistence because they are so full of fear of
Mhm.
failure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I know it from myself. If you go in a direction and you have the persistence to reach the goal, you have situations, you have times when everything doesn't work out the way you want it to. But it's always how you perceive it. It's a thing of perception. Do you see it as a learning part, or do you see it as failure? And that, I think, that makes a big difference, because nothing is a failure if you stay on course, on track, and you
Yeah.
go in the right direction. So what the most people do, I think, is they judge themselves if they don't go just the way they planned it out. And that's again the part, when you work in common with your higher faculties, the way is gonna showing up. And sometimes it's not the way we want it to go. Sometimes we have to go a different way, and sometimes we have to go a little bit a different direction, but we stay on track, and that's important. And I think that the judgment part is a big part by most of the people. So they judge themselves if they don't reach the next step in the specific time limit, and they are so strong and so judgmental with themselves that they lose the joy on the journey, and
Yep.
that's the important part. Yeah,
Yeah.
just have joy on the journey. And that's when you have the persistence, when you say, okay, I love it, I come to the next step, I have faith, I made the decision, I believe it, I have the faith, and I go in this direction no matter what.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it boils down to, like, we go back to it again and again, kind of living in the moment. When we're expressing ourselves, that's our real self. That's our consciousness. That's what makes us us. When you're in feelings of of happiness, joy, enthusiasm, even desire, all those are elevated energies. Vibrations. The high vibration. That's kind of who we are. As soon as you feel a negative vibration, I think it's key to know that that's our subconscious, that's our ego, that's our survival instinct, right? That's not us, not really. That's information coming to us. We can choose to run with it, which is if you're not used to living consciously, that's kind of the default, is to go with the fear. It's all fear based, survival based,
Yeah.
fear of failure and all that. But just keep on keeping on. There's a saying that nothing has meaning except the meaning you give it. So Superman has and Supergirl have heat vision and X-ray vision. Our supervision is objective vision. Just see things at face value for what they are. If something doesn't go your way, it doesn't mean that it's good or bad.
there's another
That
way to do it.
judgment is what we put on it. So consciously put
Mhm.
meaning that helps you, serves you, because it is something to help you. You have to have challenges. That's how you get wisdom, you know?
Mhm.
The power goes to the wise, you know? Wise comes from experience, from doing things, trying things, and just overcoming
Yeah,
challenges.
And sometimes you have to fail.
that,
Yep.
yeah.
You know,
But
Karin said something that really stuck out with me. With sometimes we're really hard on ourselves in the comparison factor. We compare ourselves with ourselves, but you know, a big thing, especially now that I'm seeing, because I have, you know, I have a generational house. So with the younger generation, social media creates such a stigma for people nowadays, where they're comparing their worst with other people's first. And so, you know, you see so much comparison where, and I think about people, you know, that's near and dear to me, who say, oh my gosh, it's so hard nowadays because everybody's doing so good, when everybody's not really doing so good there. But you're comparing yourself to an image that's not real, it's fake. But you know, a lot of times people, because they're making that comparison to other individuals who they think are doing so much better than them, then they just decide not to persist because, oh, why should I anyway? It's, you know, it's just not going to happen anyway. I challenge people, you know, especially if you're listening to this program, understand that your journey is your journey. You know, it's not anybody. You're not here to be compared, nor to compare yourself to anybody else. You're uniquely yourself, and you're the only one of you in all of time. So understand that your journey is your journey. You know, some people to get to success. You know, Robert Kiyosaki talked about, you know, he entered the tunnel, and it was a 20-year journey for him. I know people who've entered the tunnel, and 6 months later they're coming out on the other side extremely wealthy. But again, you know, I left corporate America 10 years ago, and I'm just starting to kind of see the turn. You know what I mean? But the reality is I needed to go through I needed to persist through everything in order to prepare me for my own growth. You know, maybe it just like, you know, when Walter was talking about the Chinese bamboo tree. You know, I've been working on my root system for 10 years, and now who knows? Within the next 2 months, it may blow up.
But,
Is,
you know,
is that an
it
overnight
seems like
success? No.
with your persistence, you basically have been led to even us, and
Yeah,
us to you, right? And
absolutely.
I think that we're all, you know, obviously we do this together, but we also have conversations outside of this area, and I think
Hmm.
we all help each other.
Yeah,
So that persistence has led you somewhere, which, you know, 10 years ago you might not even thought of that. You know, even the
absolutely.
idea of masterminding is not something when I was, you know, back when I was a bus driver, and I certainly never thought about masterminding. What is that?
Right,
I was,
right.
I was persistently trying to figure out how not to drive a bus, is what I was doing. So there's a part here in here I thought was kind of interesting, because it almost sounds like he's calling us out in some ways here. So says the author is checking you up at this point because lack of persistence is one of the major causes of failure, which is what we're talking about, right? Moreover, experience with thousands of people have proved that lack of persistence is a weakness common to the majority of men and women, obviously. It is a weakness which may be overcome by effort. You gotta just keep going, right? The ease with which lack of persistence may be conquered will depend entirely upon the intensity of one's desire. Now, when I said it kind of seems like to me as though he's calling us out a little bit. It's like you think about it's got nothing to do with the economy, right? It has, you know, it's got nothing to do with there's no opportunities, right? It's not because of COVID-19, right? It's got to do with persistence. And think of how many people are going to say, "Oh, well, I tried, but you know, the economy is just not there." And oh yeah, I got sick. I was sick for a few months, and I just had to put everything on hold. And one of the things that I think people don't necessarily realize is that you're probably getting sick because your subconscious mind is telling you, "Hey, this is not what we normally do." And you got to understand that kind of stuff. It happens all the time. So being persistent is so important, and nothing should get in the way of whatever it is you want to do. He goes on to say the starting point of achievement is desire. Keep this constantly in mind. Weak desires bring weak results, just as a small amount of fire makes a small amount of heat. If you find yourself lacking in persistence, The weakness may be remedied by building a stronger fire under your desire. So you have to have that wonderful, loving desire in your life, and you must be willing and to be persistent and keep going, because you're going to succeed. That's basically the law of success. If you keep going, you're going to win.
Yeah.
We don't know how long. Like, we were talking about the bamboo tree. It could take a long, long time. Or, you're talking about 10 years of your life. I could probably say that to get me where I'm at now, I've been since I was probably 26 years old. So I was like only 13 years ago. So.
Right. That's right.
And
Right.
Walter said, "You're right."
Move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true, and just kind of like the bamboo tree, you need to water, nurture your dream by regularly focusing on it, and that's a great point. And it's not just regularly focusing on it; it's taking action and regularly focus on it, and making sure that that visual representation when you're focusing on it in the morning and in the evening. The power of that, the power of the images in our mind, our memories, they're really powerful, right? I mean, there's only one moment now, one moment, and it's now. We're just experiencing now. That's it. Anything in the future is either our fears or our desires, and anything in the past is what we've experienced, and we took sort of a snapshot of experience in our mind. What an amazing thing! At any point in time, we can go back in time and relive those things, see, hear, feel, even sometimes smell, right? But when it's based on fears and survival instinct, those aren't going to be they're going to be very negative emotions, very sort of lower vibration emotions. But we have the power to put our own images and our own experiences in our memory and go to those till it becomes like a repetition. So it reprograms our subconscious the good way, the way that we choose. And every time we go to that, we put in a high emotion. What does it feel like to, I don't know, say you want to be a billionaire. Okay, what does it feel like to be a billionaire? Who are you helping? What are you putting in place? How does it feel to live on that beach house? To, whatever that desire is. Put yourself there, see yourself there, do that regularly. And now you're placing your own images that you can go to again and again. And that just helps drive you further and further, like law of attraction. You just, what you put out, you get back. Yeah, it's like a cycle, right?
That's something he talks about here. This is something we do actually on Wednesdays. We have our Elevate Roundtable, which is basically a mastermind, which anybody that might be listening in can join us. But he just moves.
Card drop.
Hopefully she comes back. So he goes on to say here that okay, I'm hearing noises and stuff. And anyway, it says here, if you find that you are weak and persistent, center your attention upon the instructions contained in chapter on power. Surround yourself with a mastermind group, and through the cooperative efforts of the members of this group, you can develop persistence. So, basically what he's saying is find, some people that are going to encourage you and support you, and, maybe accountability partners and things like that. Somebody that's going to keep you on track. And every time I hear, mastermind, obviously I like doing them. And like I've already mentioned, the Elevate Roundtable is the mastermind group that's on Wednesday. So anybody wants to join. By the way, hi Deb. Something that always comes to my mind when I think about it is when Bob Proctor talked about Jack Canfield and Chicken Soup for the Soul. That came from a mastermind group. It was Mark Victor Hansen, Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor, and I forget who else. There's like 2 or 3 others, all the same kind of people in a mastermind group, and that's where it came from. Right? So it's it's amazing what can happen. And I love that idea. Like I like it when somebody has an idea, and then we just throw ideas out. It helps them fall in love with what they're hoping to follow, and then again, if they keep coming back to the mastermind, we can hold them accountable in ways that is going to be helpful. Now, something else he talks about here too that's on the next page, and this is important. This goes back to mindset a lot. It says poverty is attracted to the one is favorable to it. Right? As money is attracted to him with whose mind has been. There we go. whose mind has been deliberately prepared to attract it. And through the same laws, poverty consciousness will voluntarily seize the mind which is not occupied with the money consciousness. A poverty consciousness develops without conscious application of habits favorable to it. The money consciousness must be created to order unless one is born with such a consciousness, which I wasn't. I wasn't born with a money consciousness. A lot of the stuff I always heard was the only way to be rich is you had to be a crook and things like that, which is not true. But I grew up with that. And I even, surprisingly, even when I went into real estate, I had family members say, "Oh, I hope he's not going to become some sleazy real estate agent." Like, why would I be a sleazy real estate agent? And who said real estate agents are sleazy? Like,
Yeah.
if you grow up around that, it's really easy to let go of whatever desires you have. You're not going to be persistent if you're constantly hearing all this voice that basically someone else's voice talking to you, telling you that you can't be successful, right?
Yeah.
So what's it say? Catch the full significance of preceding paragraph, and you will understand the importance of persistence is the accumulation of a fortune. Without persistence, you will be defeated, even before you start. See, with persistence, you will win. That's true.
Yeah.
You keep going as long as it's sound. Like you always hear things like selling ice cubes to Eskimos isn't going to work, obviously. But if it's an idea that is worthy, which I think any idea really is worthy, it really boils down to persistence. Hey, Karen's back. Hi, Karen. We lost you there.
Hi. Yeah, I lost you guys.
But you're back.
Yeah, I'm
Welcome
back.
home. Welcome home.
Hey.
So we were just, anybody want to talk about that in regards to, masterminding and then the consciousness, how you're conditioned to see the world is a big part of all of it.
And you brought up a good point, Lee. Is I had a similar thing. I think I told you guys before that my father told me when I was young, the Perdigos are destined to fail in business. It's almost like a curse on our families. And I knew it wasn't true consciously, but oh man, that was like programmed in your paradigm. I'm sure the same was with you, Lee. And whether you consciously believe it or not, it's in your paradigm. It's going to be that first reaction. Am I successful in business? No, man, you're cursed. That's the first negative sort of thing. But that's why it's so important to live consciously. You have to consciously reprogram your mind with positive energy. The more positive the closer you get to love, honestly, as much as you can put love into whatever you're doing, there is no higher energy than sort of love. There's no lower energy than fear. And it's pretty amazing, like even years of negative thinking can be wiped out in an instant when you've got a loving desire, like a high energy desire to succeed. It's amazing how much it just wipes out, how much more powerful sort of those higher energies are, those positive energies, enthusiasm, desire, love, can just squash instantly those negative thoughts and those negative emotions, Yeah.
I don't know. You know that, but I missed the last minutes. I'm sorry, I lost the connection, the Wi-Fi connection. But what I think it's important, and I know it from myself, it's not only the personal desire, the personal strength, it's also the environment. So I know it from family members. Yeah, in my case, I am persistent. I know I have the persistence, and I go for my dream. But then I had this one case when I have been asked, "How long do you want for your goal?"
Yeah.
Now you work years,
Yeah.
and you are still not there where you want to be.
Yeah.
And that's how it shows up, how much power you give into your goal and into your dream, and how much you want it. Yeah. And this is what you said before, Walter. Uh, the energy, everything is energy. So the energy you put in a project, in a goal, in a desire, in a dream, the energy comes back. But I think that's really challenging for many people. So I can talk for myself,
Oh,
but it's hard to be conscious in this time
oh
that
yeah.
you say, hey, I don't care what family members say. I don't care what my friends say. I have the persistence. I go for it, no matter what.
You,
And
you you bring up an awesome point. That everybody thinks that they're going through that alone. I had the exact same experience. How long
really,
are you going to do this for? When is enough enough? When you're starting a software company, there's so many of that type of software. You hear all of it, and I think it goes back to we have to almost be reborn all the time. When you're in a high energy and this is something new, right? This is a new version of, say, Karen or Lee or Eric or me. uh, People are used to the old you. You know what I mean? And their paradigm is programmed with the old you, and they keep wanting to bring you back. What are you, crazy? This is pie in the sky stuff. What are you doing? They're trying in their way to help you. They're stuck in their paradigm because they don't want you to fail, for whatever fail means, right? You're going to get that. You're going to get, and sometimes you get it from the closest family members that are trying in their mind to do the best for you or whatever.
Yeah, they can be the worst.
Like Eric said, only you know your journey. You've
yeah,
reset your path, and they don't see it, and that's okay, right? I'm not saying it's easy, but
I was
persistence,
just thinking
persistence, you got to keep at it.
Walter has been so persistent that he ended up with his company name logo on his shirt.
There you go. Oh, over here. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's persistence.
I just had a bunch of meetings. Sorry, I didn't have time to change my shirt.
Sure, yeah. All you need is a phone number, right? Just put a phone number. Maybe you can wear a cap next time with the phone number.
I
So let's
barely jumped on
what
it.
he's saying here. He's obviously he says with persistence will come success. It's true, right? So there is no substitute for persistence. It cannot be supplanted by any other quality. Remember this, and it will hearten you in the beginning. Is that right? Hearten? Yeah. Okay. In the beginning, when the going may seem difficult and slow. Those who have cultivated the habit of persistence seem to enjoy insurance against failure. No matter how many times they are defeated, they finally arrive up towards the top of the ladder. Sometimes it appears that there is a hidden guide whose duty is to test men through all sorts of discouraging experiences. Those who pick themselves up after defeat and keep on trying arrive, and the world cries, bravo. Man, I knew you should do it. This is what, again, we talking about what people would say. I knew you could do it. Think about that, like just even that. The people say, oh, that's never going to work. And then when you do it, oh, I knew you could do it. Like, give me a minute. The hidden guide lets no one enjoy great achievement without passing the persistence test. Those who can't take it simply do not make the grade. That's true. Right? Like there is no one out there that's been successful that hasn't been persistent in pursuing whatever it is that they want.
Yeah.
There's people that are, that are very successful, but that's because maybe somebody gave it to them, or they inherited it. That's easy. Like we have a new king now, but he just inherited the throne from the queen. Right? So
Yeah.
It's, those who don't know, Queen Elizabeth passed away today.
Yeah, my son just told me. Yeah.
So it says those who can take it are bountifully rewarded for their persistence. They receive as their compensation whatever goal they are pursuing. That is not all. They receive something infinitely more important than material compensation. The knowledge that every failure brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about that. That's the key is, I definitely probably in my life failed many more times than I actually won. But I don't stop. There's something I always sit back sometimes because I don't. Obviously, you people are like, this is different. but I don't have a lot of people that I know that would go through all the crap that I've gone through to get where I want to go. Most people just plain give up. They go find a job and things like that. And I think about how many times has somebody said, "Why don't you just go get a job?" And I'm thinking, like, what am I going to go get a job doing? Like, I hate my life. I'd rather not even be here than have to go do something I don't want to do. Right?
Right. Yeah.
I've done that. I've done stuff I don't want to do. And, I've worked in factories. I drove a bus, like I've already mentioned. Things like I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
If I can't do what I'm doing, I don't want to do anything.
This idea of failure, I mean, even that term, failure, that's definitely an ego term, you know what I mean? It's a failure. It's something that's unexpected. You were expecting a certain outcome and it was something different. This is older than, so Stoicism is sort of a Greek philosophy back like 300 BC. It was, Marcus Aurelius was, a believer in it, Seneca and whatever. So Marcus Aurelius was a relatively young kid. I guess it was old back then. That guy conquered the world. Probably one of the most powerful Caesars of all time. He said there are only challenges. There's something unexpected, and it actually speaks exactly to persistence. The whole Stoicism philosophy is a challenge. You figure how to get around it. A tree falls in your way, you figure how to climb it. Something blocks your road, go around it. Just be a doggedly persistent, like a pit bull that doesn't let go. You're your biggest believer, your biggest cheerleader. And then others will come on board as you get more and more quote unquote wins or whatever, as things start going more towards manifesting. People just start to see you and get used to the new you and the new version of you, and they just, like Lee said, accept it, and then suddenly they could believe in you. I knew you could do it. Yeah, sure. Where were you when we started? Right.
It was.
I think one of the things that persistence creates in us is confidence. Because once you win the first time, and you believe in yourself just a little bit more, so that creates even more persistence in you, because without a shadow of a doubt you're going to win again, and you're going to win again. The more you win, the more you're going to win. But it's a vicious cycle, because it's when you start quitting, it's real easy to quit too. So as soon as it gets a little bit difficult, you quit.
Yeah.
And it's easier to quit the next time.
Yeah.
So again, you have to figure out which route you want to go, and how you want to live your life. Do you want to live the life of your dreams, or do you want to live a life that someone else dictates for you? And that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. Actually, maybe we can go through that. Does everybody have an experience where you persisted and you were kind of ready to give up? The other thing is, and when you give up, we come up with the best excuses as to why, and everyone will agree with you. Oh yeah, you got to adjust in time, whatever, right? I mean, I can tell you when I was starting my business, it does take a good 2 years, right, to kind of get things rolling. But I had hired a bunch of people, and there was 1 month where I barely had enough as far as invoice goes, to pay myself, and I had another 10 people to pay for that month. And was I scared? Yeah, you damn right. It was you shut down? Where are you gonna get the money? What are you gonna do and whatever? And I said no, because I just had a feeling there's a few close things were gonna close and whatever. And within the next month, that was my worst month ever. The next month was my best month ever, and from then it just shot forward. Had I given up then, everybody would have said, "Oh yeah, totally. Well, you couldn't even pay, your people. That's a great move, Walter." Well, after that is when we exploded, and the revenue started really climbing. Yeah. So I think Bob Proctor calls it terror barrier, right, Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, when along that lines is, we often talk about the law of attraction and vibration and attraction and things like that. Like, if you keep going, you're changing your vibration, because you've been listening to that old voice telling you go get a job, but you're not listening anymore, and you keep moving forward. So you're changing the vibration you're in, and guess what? You're going to attract to you now everything on that brand new vibration. Just like, you're saying it could take a couple of years for something to actually take off. Well, that's got a lot to do with the vibration you're in. Like if you believe it's going to take a couple of years, it's going to take at least a couple of years.
Yeah.
But if you keep going, and I know exactly what you're talking about, Walter, I've been there many times where I'm thinking like I'm busting my butt here and everybody else is making money except me. And but that is going to that'll change. It always changes. I look back at all the different things I've done. It's to the point where you look back and go, wow, I kind of feel as though I was always like this. I was always had all this opportunities and things like that. But it's not like that.
No.
You got to keep going. You got to be persistent, right? So
Yeah.
I think everybody on, I know obviously I know everybody on this this call, and I know that you've all been very persistent in what you're doing, and you're all winning. Right? You're all living the life that you have chosen to live. You're not living someone else's life. And that's the key. And again, like you can have a job, like you get people that want to be a doctor, or somebody wants to be a lawyer, somebody wants to be an accountant, or, I mentioned, the bus driving. I know people that love driving a bus.
Yeah. As long as you love it. Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's a fine thing. But, the key is you're going to attract to you everything that you want.
Yeah.
And that persistence is going to keep you on that vibration where you are attracting everything you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a great, talking about the laws. Everybody talks about law of attraction, but law of vibration is really important, right? You're always in some state of energy, of vibration. And those higher vibrations of love, desire, etc., empower you almost. And then, the law of reaction, what you put out is what you get back. When you put out a high energy of desire and love and all of that, you get it back. Law of attraction, like energy attracts like energy. People that are of, an excited, we love getting together because we're all with similar energy. Just kind of, you get drawn to that same energy. Same when you're in a negative energy. Depressed people love being around depressed people and complaining, right? Like that's just like energy attracts like energy. And then law of rhythm.
Before we got on the call, you're saying the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
Want to be around negative people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy. It's crazy you say that, Walter, because I was telling Lee right before we started here today, I was like, man, I live a very happy life. Like I'm happy all the time. And I was like, I don't even want to be around people who's not even happy. And as soon as I said that, Karen jumped. I was like, hey, what's up?
Who's a happy person? I don't know where she is on your screen, but Karen never stops smiling. Eh? It comes on, it's smiling, laughing, so like it's like
awesome.
She's like a drug. It's hard to be unhappy around Karen, I think.
Another important point is a law of rhythm, which we always, maybe our ego expects, everything's always, everything's always great, happy as hell, or, it's going in the crapper. And it's not like that. It's a seasons. Everything has ups, downs, seasons, there's summer, there's winter, there's fall, etc. We have quote unquote ups and downs, but what I found is right before there's a huge breakthrough, that crest, there's always that downturn. And so it doesn't bother me anymore. Actually, when I get some challenges, I go, okay, good. That means that this is working, and I'm waiting, expecting for the crest to come now. You're kind of, I don't know, surfing, but yeah, you're that happens. There's ups, there's downs. Nothing is just perfectly steady, steady state. That isn't how the universe works. It gives and takes, it ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs. But generally, before you hit a breakthrough, you really do hit that sort of downturn before hitting the upturn.
Persistence is going to get you through it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I just moved over. Go ahead. Got something to say, Karen?
Yes, that is absolutely. So if you don't have the persistence, it's not gonna working out.
It's not.
So that's all the energy, and I think the most important thing is the love for what you're doing. If you feel the love, and that's a part in abundance tuning too, when people are they have a resistance to love, then they are not gonna reach their goals and their dreams. This is when you have the passion and the love for what you do, then it everything's working out. Everything is working out for everybody. The love is such a high vibration, and the love for the people, the love for what you're doing, the love for life, and love for food, and the love for everything. Yeah, and that's what you send out to the universe. So that's what comes back
And we
every day.
love you, Karen.
Yes, we do.
Essentially, what you're saying there is actually leading me right to right to the next part that I was going to point out. Is he talks about there's like 8 different things here. That the persistence is a state of mind, therefore it can be cultivated. Like all states of mind, persistence is based on definite causes. Among them are these, and A is a definite purpose. Knowing what you want is the first and perhaps the most important step towards the development of persistence. A strong motive forces one to surmount many difficulties. I'm still working on a hook on phonics there that you recommended there.
You might need to be snatched on phonics now.
That kind of leads into what Karen was just saying. You got to love what you're doing too, right? The next part here is desire. It's comparatively easy to acquire and to maintain persistence in pursuing the object of intense desire. The third one here, self-reliance. Belief in one's ability to carry out a plan encourages one to follow the plan through with persistence. Self-reliance can be developed through the principle described in the chapter on autosuggestion, which we did a couple weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And definites of plans, organized plans, even though they may be weak and entirely impractical, encourage persistence. It's really just about getting started, isn't it? Then accurate knowledge, knowing that one's plans are sound based on upon experience or observation, encourages persistence. Guessing instead of knowing destroys persistence. Right? Okay. And cooperation, sympathy, understanding, and harmonious cooperation with others tend to develop persistence. And then we got willpower, the habit of concentrating one's thoughts upon the building of plans for the attainment of a definite purpose leads to persistence. And then the last one here is habit. Persistence is the direct result of habits. The mind absorbs and becomes a part of the daily experiences upon which it feeds. Fear, the worst of all enemies, can be effectively cured by forced repetition it's got spelling. I don't even know it's about courage. Anyways, it's just a word in here. It's not even a word. But anyways, everyone who has seen active service in war knows this. Before leaving the subject of persistence, take inventory of yourself and determine in what particular, if any, you are lacking in this essential quality. Measure yourself courageously point by point and see how many of the 8 factors of persistence you lack. The analysis may lead to discovering that will give you a new grip on yourself. Don't get dirty about the grip on yourself.
No, I think persistence, me, and repetition goes hand in hand. The repetition, so auto-suggestion, all of that. So you've been programmed on autopilot up until now. Now you have the opportunity to reprogram yourself, and the more you focus on those things before you go to bed, when you wake up at night, or when you wake up in the morning, you keep focusing on with what you love, those desires, those goals. The more you do it, there's 2 ways that you can that stuff gets sort of sent into your paradigm. You get reprogrammed. It's either through repetition and or emotion. You have some high-powered emotion. So doing both of those things, repetition with high-powered emotion, now has you reprogramming those negative thoughts, whatever they are, whatever you want to reprogram. The more you do it, the more you subconsciously program that. And then the first reaction when that happens, the first reaction that pops up is now a positive one because you've programmed that into your paradigm. Your paradigm is now focused on fear. It's now focused on desire and love and all those high energy emotions, right? Definitely the key.
Absolutely. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Oh, go ahead.
You know, one of the things I've noticed, because you know, a lot of times we talk through stuff, and I know I used to be at every personal development seminar that I could possibly go to back in the days. And they would always say, "Oh yeah, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. You'll become a better person if you persist," right? But nobody ever said, you know, I remember sitting in the audience saying, "Well, how the hell do I persist? Like, tell me how, right? Just give me something." So I'm gonna give you something, right? For me, I noticed that when I don't follow my morning routine, it's extremely hard to persist. So it's like, you know, like we were just talking about, you know, the self-reliance, the cooperating with yourself, but most importantly, the habits. Like you have to create good habits for you. And the better your habits, the easier it is for you to persist. So if you're a person that's out there saying, "Oh my gosh, how in the world do I get to this persistent place?" Create a morning routine for yourself. It just starts your day off the exact same way. And your day just takes, you start to notice a pattern starts to happen in your life. If something upsets my morning routine, guaranteed it's going to be a day of struggle for me. That's just me personally. But I can guarantee you it's probably just about everybody else is the same way too. Once you get that morning routine down, it helps tremendously to start building really good habits in the morning. When I wake up in the morning and I meditate and pray and work out and do all the things I'm supposed to do, rather than do this, and I'm not perfect. So there are some mornings I get up and I'm like, let me just see what's going on here real quick, and I'm gonna get off. Next thing you know, 20 minutes have passed, or 30 minutes have passed, or an hour has passed, and you're like, oh, I'm so behind on everything. So building good habits, man, is the place to start. It's truly the place to start.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. So
Yeah.
living consciously, right? So when you wake up in the morning, you're consciously saying, "I'm going to do this," because your subconscious is take the easy way out, right? Oh man, just let me sleep for another hour or whatever, right?
Yep.
No, you're consciously taking control, ignoring your subconscious, and you're saying, "I'm going to meditate." That's almost identical to what I do, Eric. I meditate, focus on the goals, do my workout, go for a jog, and then I start my day. And if I miss it, I'm exactly like you. It feels like, oh
Done.
man,
I might as well just look at social media all day long.
right. True.
I don't know. I don't know if you guys know this feeling, if you had it too, but when I remember when I started focusing on going live and making the videos and show myself to the world, and that was really hard for me at the beginning, you know. And when I went to bed and I made my visualization and I woke up, I had many days when I woke up and I just felt fear. And I think that's also a challenge for many, many people when they start to visualize a new goal, a new dream. When you wake up and you feel this fear. So if that happens, and it happens all the time, again and again, when I have new goals and new projects, what I want to reach. So I don't get up, I don't go out of bed until I'm in the right vibration. So I stay in my alpha, in the alpha brainwaves. And I make the repetition, like you said, Walter. But that became my morning routine, that I get up, that I get out of bed only when I'm in the right vibration. And I think that's important, that the people know that that's not something that they make something on the wrong way, or it's false, or they make something wrong. You know, they think about, many people think, what am I doing wrong? And then it doesn't work out for me, maybe for the others, but not for me. So it's normal. It's absolutely normal.
Yep. It's actually get excited when that happens, because you're triggering your fight or flight response, your lizard brain, right? The lizard brain is to assess any
Yeah.
risk. Your ego is to compare whatever your situation is that you want to your current paradigm. So the further away it is from where you currently are, the more freer you're going to feel. So that's good. That's a good thing. When you feel fear, you go, perfect. This is a great goal because it's a
Keep your
real
comfort
stretch.
zone.
Yeah, it's a real stretch. You get to the point where you go, okay, good. That's my measuring stick. Perfect. If I'm not scared, it's probably not big enough, and I need the scared
Yeah,
of
exactly.
you
I
know.
think you made such a great point though, Karin, is that all of us think that we're the only one, right? We think, oh my gosh, I beat
Yeah.
myself up because I'm scared of this, I'm that. But everybody goes through it. I remember having a conversation with Lee, and I said, it really started changing for me when I heard Bob Proctor, who was like this world-renowned guru, say, I get scared every time I have to do a new project. I'm like, wait a minute, what? This is Bob Proctor. Like, this is the dude. This is the man. When it comes to personal development and mindset stuff, like, he is like the all being. He's like Oz, right? But for him to say, listen, man, every time I start a new project, I get scared. I'm like, well, wait a minute now. If he's getting scared, I'm okay. It's not just me. It's all of us, right?
Yep.
And that's part of, like what Walter was talking about, your lizard brain. Your lizard brain wants you to think that you are the only one that's going through this. But you're not. And I
Yeah.
share that with everybody that I come in contact with now, because I remember when I was in that place where I thought I was the only one, excuse me, and because I thought I was the only one, I never would reach out to other individuals. And that was the exact opposite of what I needed to be doing. Now if I have something going on, like if I start feeling fear, I have little checkpoints for myself. Like, I can typically, I'm at a point now where I can typically get myself past the fear, but let's be human and let's be very real and transparent. There's sometimes when I'm so scared, I'm like, I got to call somebody, right?
Yeah.
And I have people that I call, some being here, right? But there are people that I call and be like, hey man, I don't want to do this. Like, man, go, you got it, right? You just need a cheerleader from time to time.
Yeah.
So again, if you're here, and you're here trying to learn, how do you get to that persistent point? You just have to put things in place for yourself, man, and understand that persistence is it's not an alone game all the time either. Surround yourself with the right people who can truly help you get through and to the next level, through this level and to the next level.
The next chapter is the power of the mastermind.
There you go.
And,
Next week, right?
and
That's
that
the
belief.
Yeah, perfect. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
as we're wrapping
And I
things
think
up
we
here,
talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
That's
Belief,
it.
belief.
As
I
in,
think we talked about it yesterday. Well, it's so perfect what you said, Eric, about Bob when he said, when I have a new goal, do you think I believe from the first moment on? No. I have to drain my brain and my body to the goal. And that was also a big shift in my perception when I said, okay, he feels the same way. Yeah, we are all the same and we feel all the same way. But it's so beautiful to hear and to feel, hey man, I'm not alone. It's so beautiful and I'm on track. I'm on my path.
Yeah.
I think the area that we often are alone is the fact that we have goals and we're persistent in chasing them. It's good, like, we're all kind of in that same mindset, but the majority of people that we run into are not. So that's the thing, like it's you have to surround yourself. It's going back to the mastermind. And as we're wrapping up, I was just going to quickly, we were talking about how do you develop persistence, and obviously Napoleon helped put 4 little steps in here. I'll just read the whole thing. So there are 4 simple steps which lead to the habit of persistence. They call for no great amount of intelligence, no particular amount of education, but little time or effort. The necessary steps are: number 1, a definite purpose backed by a burning desire for its fulfillment. You got to be in love with whatever it is you're looking for or you're doing. Number 2, a definite plan expressed in continuous action. Number 3, a mind closed tightly against all negative and discouraging influences, including negative suggestions of relatives, friends, and acquaintances. And in number 4, a friendly alliance with one or more persons who will encourage one to follow through with both plan and purpose. It goes on to say these 4 steps are essential for success in all walks of life. The entire purpose of the 13 principles of this philosophy is to enable one to take these 4 steps as a matter of habit. But we've basically, it's interesting, we've already kind of covered all those 4 steps, right? So, you know, that's why we're, you know, actually following our dreams. I can say that everybody on this call is chasing their dreams. You know, they may not necessarily be exactly where you want to be yet, but you're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, hanging out in the mastermind of people with the same type of ideas and thoughts and encouragements, you know, you're going to win. And that's, I think, you know, as we're leaving this, I hope that anybody who might be listening or going to maybe watch it later, you will win.
Yeah.
But you might hit a wall every once in a while. You may hit a pothole once in a while. You might have a wheel fall off once in a while, but you're going to win.
Yeah.
But only if you're persistent. Right?
That's right.
And that's the key. Any final thoughts as we start to wrap up here? Because it's time.
Yeah. One thing is to keep in mind when you set your goal, it's born the second you believe it and start your actions. From that point forward, it's persistence until you achieve it. That's it. So, you know, just like we were born, it takes 9 months for us to be born. You know, we're not born just when we pop out of the womb. You know, there's a time where we were 1 second old, and it kind of has to ferment or whatever, to grow. But it's the same thing with the goal. You set your goal, you believe it. Once you believe it in your gut, now it's just a matter of action and time before it comes to fruition. There is nothing else. So the second you believe it, it's real. Now it's just being persistent. It's just following through the steps of bringing it to fruition, to manifest.
Anybody else before we go? Well, thanks for
Good,
Yeah.
man.
been following us today. I know Deb well, and Deb is on here, and I believe she just said thank you, everyone. I think
Thank you, Deb.
it doesn't have her name on it, but I'm assuming it's Deb.
Thank you, Dad.
So yeah, and thanks to you guys. This is always great. And again, next week, mastermind on we'll be back here again on Thursday. But anybody might want to join us on Wednesdays. We have the Elevate Roundtable, which is a mastermind. It's a closed meeting. It's not live like this is. You do have to register for it, and when you do register, we'll send you a link to the Zoom call, and you can join us. And you know, there's usually, you know, I don't know, close to a dozen people on there. It's kind of good. It's growing, and I don't know, I think it's one of the better things that we actually are doing. This is fun, but I do like the roundtable, and
Yeah.
you know, so. And if you have any ideas to make the roundtable better, come and mastermind with us and give us some
It
ideas.
is.
That's what it is. So again, thanks everyone. It's great seeing everyone, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks.
Okay.
Always a pleasure.
Have a great week. See you.
Alrighty.
Take care.
Bye.
Next week.